Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, so never happens. I hardly ever get sick, but of course, because I was doing something daily, I got sick. I could not even think about having a sniff or a sip of whiskey for the last few days. So, as of last night, I felt much better and I was able to sit down and go through the samples that I was behind. So, we did 20, 21, and 22 last night as far as tasting and trying to figure out what they are. Got those written down. And I suppose I better tell you. So, the last video was 19. That ended up being an Arden Merkin. It was a special single cask from them, new distillery. I've never had them. I thought it was really cool to be able to try them in that fashion. But it was cask 411 or 4.11 or 0.411. I don't know. It was bottled at 55%, and it was all refill casks, some of which were refill Scotch casks. I did say single malt, so we got that. I did guess 57 to 60 on the proof, so I was a little high there. No shocker. And I said ex bourbon. So technically, they are all ex bourbon. And I did suggest that a lot of them were maybe second or third fill, with some of them being ex Scotch casks. They were bourbon casks. Then they got filled with Scotch. Then they got filled with this. So yeah, technically, I was pretty close to right on. So yeah, we're gonna take whatever points we got on that, and yeah, we're gonna call that happy. I'm gonna try to burn through these quick so I can be caught up, get 23 done a little bit later here. Moving on to day 20. Day 20. When I took my first sip of this, I was like, ooh, I was a little taken aback by what it was. Um, it was it was almost astringent. I let it sit, let it air out for a little bit. I wasn't sure. Maybe that was just the first sip of whiskey since a few days earlier, or if it was whiskey, it did mellow out for me eventually and came around pretty nicely. But definitely a single malt is my guess. I'm going 54 to 57 on the proof, and ex bourbon is what I guessed. And I'm just going to reveal these right away so we can get this done. Number 20 actually ended up being a Crofton Gia, which is a label out of the Loch Lomond distillery. It was bottled at 50%. So, again, a little high on the proof, not a shocker. And casking on it was, I'm not 100% how to read this. I'm going to tell you what I think after I read the code here, but it says 2X DC slash RC HHD. So my guess is it was a second use, then it was decharred and recharred, and it's a hogshead, is what I think that means. It's my best deciphering that I can do with that code. So I'll have to find out some specifics on that and see if that's actually accurate or not. But I said ex bourbon. My guess is the astringency came from the dechar rechar. It was a total shock to the system to get a single malt with that kind of cask influence on it. So I think that's probably where that came from. And yeah, a little high on the proof again. And it was actually a Thompson Brothers bottling of Crofton Gia, so not their independent bottler. So pretty cool bottle of whiskey. After that first initial sip and giving it some air and a little bit of water, it really came around. It ended up being a very nice whiskey. Moving on, day 21. Day 21 was, here's what I have written down. Stumped, question mark, 46 to 49%, and sherry. Okay. This thing, wild flavors on it. I didn't get anything specific that told me one thing or another. I'm guessing some kind of malt, but no clue here. So really, I'm going to take a 0 for this one because I don't know. Um, I have no idea what style of whiskey this is. 46 to 49% and sherry casking. I definitely did get some sherry cask influence vibes off of this. So And day 21 ended up being, now this is gonna be crazy, but it's a Macallan. It is the Macallan Harmony, bottled at 44%. Shocking, still a little high on the proof. And yes, definitely a sherry casking. The Macallan Harmony is a special edition from Macallan. I actually have very little experience with Macallan. I have had maybe like two glasses of any Macallan in my entire whiskey journey here. Not something I chase after too much. So yeah, I don't know if this thing is like way off profile for them or any of that. But if this is normal profile for Macallan, I would definitely be interested in maybe looking for one or two of these. I don't think it suffered at all from the low proof. I think the sherry was spot on and definitely had interesting flavors going on throughout the whole thing. Wild flavors, in fact. I didn't get much of malt vibes or much of grain vibes or much of anything vibes. It just had just pops of flavor that went in 100 different directions. It was just a wild experience. Day 22 also was an unsure. I wrote down unsure. Now I went through this glass and I got some rye vibes and I got some grain vibes and I got some, you know, Irish blend vibes. After a little bit of water, the Irish blend vibes came out a lot stronger. Rye vibes went away. I was getting some citrusy and like that powdered sugar icing with lemon in it. Totally got that. Um, Ethanol hit pretty hard, and it wasn't proofy. It just was ethanol-y. I have written down for a guess of an Irish blend, unsure. I also have 44 to 47%, and ex bourbon only. I didn't get any vibes from any additional casking. Nothing else going on there. There was no reason for me to think that there was anything else going on than just regular ex bourbon casking. And it ended up being, I think it's a bottler out of Glasgow. It is an Invergordon single grain Scotch, 25 years old, bottled at 51.4%. And any casking wasn't specified on it. Didn't say what it was. Here's the label. Yeah. So again, single grain, not something I have almost no experience with. I don't. I prefer the malt over the grain. Yes, I know lots of people say you can get some magical stuff out of single grain. I just like single malt better. But this pretty much solidifies why I'm not huge on single grain. It was ethanol-y, it was tinny, it was, that metallic icing, fake icing kind of notes that I got out of it. Not my favorite things, um, you know, but it is what it is. And if you're into single grain whiskey, this is a fantastic whiskey, apparently. 25-year-old single grain. So yeah, that's where we ended up on days 20, 21, and 22. And yeah, so now I get to sit down and try to do 23. All right. Thank you, everybody. And sorry for the absence there, but cheers to this American spirit.